Hello, everyone. Sir Jonathan here, and I'm glad to have you all together with us on our continuing journey of developing and encouraging GameFi progress on Stacks. As you all know, our team, that being Stacks Degens, is working on building GameFi infrastructure, trying to pave the way for future dapp developers, and also documenting our work so that your building experience will be as smooth as possible. All of our work can be found inside the Git book, which I will share in the comments right now, and I encourage you all to use it to its full capacity. Today is going to be about implementing NFTs into your dapp. This includes hosting NFTs metadata and images on a decentralized storage platform, launching an NFT smart contract, and using Stacks Explorer to deploy smart contracts and call functions as well. Moving on, we'll be creating a basic React dapp using StackStarter.js and develop it so that you'll end up with a fully functional minigame in which you'll be using your own NFTs. That being said, I wish you all good luck and a productive session. Deployer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and hello everyone. As Sir Jonathan was saying before, we'll get started right away with integrating them into a web app. So the first step would be to start by downloading the resources needed, the JSONs and images for the NFTs. We'll also have a basic game that will be integrating in the app later on, and some styling files. Everything can be found directly on the GitHub itself. All right, the first step will be to upload the files to the decentralized storage. To get this done, we'll start with cloning the repository using the git clone command. So we'll go to the code and copy the address hash link and also do it directly on the terminal. On the Windows, I would recommend the preview terminal. It includes the Windows PowerShell and the command prompt, and also has some highlight for the clarinet. On Linux and Mac OS, the basic terminal is all right. So after we clone it, we'll have all the files needed locally. We'll get into it and also open it right here so we can see it. Perfect. And going on with the uploads of the files, we'll go to the Pinata website, we'll log in, and we'll start uploading each folder. So we'll start with the images for the in-game, which will represent the motions of the image while playing, and afterwards with the images for the marketplace. Let's name the folder workshop in-game images. It will take a few seconds and it generates a CID. This is a content identifier. It is unique for every single folder or file updated and uploaded, so you know that the content is not changed or modified in any way. All right, next we'll upload the marketplace images. These ones are a bit bigger, so it will take like 10 to 15 seconds. Also, all the files will be the same, so the CID for them is already known if you upload them like a second time. So the JSONs, which represents the metadata for the NFTs, contain already the CIDs for the images in game and for the images on the marketplace. So you can directly upload the JSONs also. Workshop JSONs NFT. All right. Having this all uploaded on the Pinata, we can move on with the next step, which will be regarding the creation of the smart contract. We'll create a basic NFT smart contract, editing it for our use case. So we'll change the name of the token and the URI, specifying it to be for the Pinata decentralized storage. Then we'll go to the Stacks Explorer, show how to request stacks, deploy the smart contracts on the testnet, and claim an NFT directly through it. We'll follow along with the docs from the hero tutorial regarding the Clarinet NFT, and we'll start step by step. So first will be the creation of a new project. We can directly copy the link. For the Windows, the command has to be changed in this way. All right, so right now we are on the Clarity NFT folder. Then we'll need to add the contracts to the project. So we'll create them. We'll open it on the VS Code. All right. And we want to remove the NFT trait test, so we'll delete it. Moving on, we'll add the smart contracts code. So first for the NFT traits. And then for our NFT. And here on the NFT smart contract code, we'll change my own NFT to be, in this case, a duck, and the token URI to be from the decentralized Pinata storage. So we'll take the content identifier, which is this one, and we'll change it to be IPFS content identifier id.json. All right. Moving on, we'll have add the tests. Here we'll only add the following lines after the imports because the versions are different. So we'll keep this and also upload the test to be for our token URI. Perfect. So first let's check it as the syntax with the Clarinet check. Everything is all right. And now with the test, as you can see right here, it passed, so it's perfect. All right, the next step will be to get to the Text Explorer and be sure to be on the testnet. All right, the first part will be to get to the sandbox, and as I've seen, get to the testnet. All right, perfect. So request the stacks. All right, it will come most probably in the next block, so it will take some time. I have some stacks prepared, so I'll showcase how to deploy it directly. We'll take first the NFT trait smart contract and call it NFT trait and deploy it. I already have deployed it before, so you will be able to deploy it this way, but mine is already deployed. Then you will be able to do the My NFT Smart Contract. Be sure to remove the address before it, so it uses the same address that you've uploaded the NFT trait with. All right, and call it My NFT. So you will be able to see on the testnet that it is in process of deploying. Also, this one will take probably one block. So I have another one prepared called My NFT second. We'll use that one to showcase how to call a function. So let's copy it here first to check it. All right. We'll copy the name from the smart contract and paste it directly here. We'll call the get contract and we can see all the functions available. We have the claim, which we'll call to get the NFT. Then we can transfer them and get data from the read-only functions. So we'll claim it 2 times to get 2 NFTs. And that's pretty much how you deploy your smart contract directly on the Stacks blockchain. To do everything as smooth as possible, we also deployed a smart contract to the mainnet, and with the help of Gamma, we've created this page to be able to mint them directly. So all the API calls that we'll do on this workshop will be directly with this smart contract, so everybody can be on the same page. All right. Moving on, we'll create right now a React app. We'll show how to pick a framework and the functionalities that you want to integrate with it, and how to download it locally so we can edit it afterwards and update what we need. Also, at every step that we'll do, if you are like, if you didn't keep the pace, you can use the Git checkout, which will be displayed on the specific slide. So you can start freshly with the specific steps, starting with the last updated milestone that we've done previously. So let's start with the Stacks.js starter. We'll select the framework that our project will use. We'll pick the general one with the React, and we want to connect with the wallet, interact with NFTs, and call and read from the Clarity smart contract. So we pick general project locally, and we copy the specific terminal code. All right, make sure to move to the root folder to the workshop NFT integration and paste the command below. All right, we want a React app with the create React app. And now we have the following steps. First, to move to the folder, then to install all the dependencies needed. This will take between 10 to 20 seconds. And afterwards, we can use the npm start to display a basic React app where we can connect with the wallet and see exactly our Stacks mainnet address and testnet address. And it's done. Perfect. So let's start it with npm start. And on the local host port 3000, it will start an instance containing the application. The first one will be without the wallet connected. It will showcase this, and then after we connect it, we'll have the addresses and the buttons to call the smart contract functions. Perfect. So moving to the next step, we'll set up the needed files, the Prettier, the startup file, and also a connect wallet, which the connect wallet to have a MainMenu upon it, and basically update the connect wallet, create the MainMenu, and develop the MainMenu, so everything is structured. So let's get started with it. For the Prettier to be set up, let's first close the app, move to the main folder, the workshop NFT integration, close the Visual Studio Code, and open the Visual Studio Code in the root folder. So now we can see all of the folders in the left. For the Prettier to be configured, we'll copy the file from the game folder to the React folder. Afterwards, we'll copy the relative path. We'll go to the settings and call Prettier. Then we'll update it in the config path. All right. Next, we'll update the startup file, which is the app.js. And as most of the functionality will be moved to the Connect wallet and the MainMenu, we'll have less code here, so we can easily integrate the game at the end. The most highlights are because the React is not imported, so for the quick fix, we can right click it or control and dot and import React from React, or simply write import React from React. At the end of the editing of the app.js, we'll only keep here the connect wallet component and the main div, which includes the class name app. So we'll move the header and most of the information to the connect wallet. All right. And as you can see, Prettier just stylish the code. Perfect. So moving to the Connect wallet, we'll update it to have some React state hooks, which will say if we loaded the component successfully or it is still in the rendering process. Those one are the use state and the use effect. And we'll create the state in the Connect wallet component called mounted with the set mounted. The default state will be false. And we'll make it true using use effect, which loads after the component is completely rendered. So set mounted true without any callback arguments. Now we'll edit the return to have the header that we removed previously. I'll write it right here. So it was header with the class name of app header. And also add a title, H1 title, integrate NFTs into a web app. Then we'll introduce the MainMenu component. We'll create a new file called MainMenu.js and export it. So export constant MainMenu, which is a default component having nothing in it. Then importing it right here. So import MainMenu from MainMenu. To build a condition that we've wanted with the mounted, we'll add the mounted variable to the if condition. So if the mounted and the user is signed in, it will return the MainMenu with all its functionality. So we'll move this to the MainMenu, and here we'll return a div containing the MainMenu. All right, and in the MainMenu, we'll return the information and import React from React. Also, the disconnect function will be moved right here because it isn't used on the Connect wallet at the moment. So we'll have it directly here implemented, and the user session will be also imported. As you can see, user session is the session used for the current user to display and get its mainnet and testnet addresses. So we'll keep a constant having its address, and we'll call it user address. And pretty much it is the user session that load user data, getting the profile and the stacks address. And because we are using the mainnet for this case, it will be the mainnet. And we can remove this one. Then we should also add right here the title with integrate NFTs into a web app and the current user logged in. So we'll use this format for the string to also include the variable directly inside it. We'll call it current user address. User address. Then we have the button to disconnect from the wallet. And that's it regarding it. All right, so looking at it right now, npm start. We have the basic integration, and if we log in, we can see the address and the title and everything. All right. So for the styling to be exactly the same, because you can see this is the gray and the one logged in it's white, we'll also add the class name app header to the MainMenu component. So right here, back in the MainMenu component, we'll have the header with the class name app header. Right, and it updated and we have the same styling. We'll move on to the fetching of the NFTs, which will be done using the stacks and the hero API. We'll analyze the stacks API URL, the JSON response structure, and based on it, we'll build two functions, one to fetch the JSON response from the API based on the user address, and the other one to get the NFTs directly from the JSON response. We'll use the hero API, and here we can see all the information needed. So they have APIs regarding the accounts, blocks, fungible and non-fungible tokens, smart contracts, and transactions. Pretty much anything. We'll want to use the non-fungible tokens API, more specifically the non-fungible token holdings. So we'll start with the mainnet. And as you can see on the left side, there are some required parameters such as the principal. So we'll create the link, we'll add the question mark, the principal, and for this example, we'll use our own stacks address. Make sure to move to the mainnet and copy your address. All right, right now you can see all the NFTs that I own from all the collections. We'll use the ones from the workshop-NFTs integration with the dapp. So for that, we'll first let's close all this. All right. We'll all add the asset identifier as a parameter. So to add multiple parameters, we'll write and copy the name of the parameter and copy the specific identifier, which in our case is this one. So right now we can see all the NFTs owned from this collection by this wallet. This is the following regarding the structure. We have firstly the limit, which by default is 50, and it's the max that represents the number of results we'll get in the list, so the maximum number of NFTs returned. Then there is the offset, which is the number of the first NFT. So for example, if we started with NFT 3, then with the offset 3, then only the last 3 NFTs will be displayed. And if the offset is 10, the list will be empty. The total is the total amount of NFTs owned. So for this specific example, it's 6. And the results are a list containing all the NFTs owned in a specific structure. So we have first the asset identifier, then we have the value, which is in 2 representations. First is the hex representation, and second is a more human readable one. It contains the U as the first character because it's an integer, and then the specific number. We also have the block height and the TX ID. So having all this structure, we'll start by creating the function to get from the results, to get from the JSON itself, from the JSON response, the IDs owned, and then on top of it, we'll create the function which calls and fetches the JSON and then gets the IDs from the JSON response. So let's get started with the first one. They will be developed in the MainMenu, and we'll call it get IDs NFTs owned. Right, we'll have as a parameter the JSON for the NFT holdings. And we'll start with an empty list of arrays. So first, let's check that we have results. If there are no results, it should return directly the empty list. If there are results, it should go through it. So if JSON holdings dot results, then for each result, so result, we'll use the map function. We'll get the ID, which is from the value, representation, and substring starting from the second place till the last character. So it's value dot representation dot substring from 1 and to string. We'll also add a checker to make sure that it's not an empty result, and we'll push it to the list. Then we'll return the list. Now moving on to the other function, we want to get the JSON as the response and then get the IDs from it. So let's call this one directly get NFTs owned. it will be async as it uses the fetch inside it. And the parameter will be the account address, which will fetch for the URL and the NFTs. So URL holding. All right. And we can directly take this one and replace the principal. So make sure to use this and not this or this, because we want to add the user address dynamically here. So we'll call like this, and it's account address. Then we want to get the JSON. So JSON NFT, and we'll await for the fetch from the URL holdings. And then with the result fetch, we want to return the JSON. All right, from the JSON, then we want to get all the NFTs. So list of NFTs. And we'll call the function which we've created priorly. So JSON NFT. Then we'll console log the list of NFTs. And here is a typo, it's list of NFTs. All right, and return it. Okay, to see it in action, we'll call the get NFTs owned for the user address. So coming back to the React app, we'll open the developer tools, which can be done calling from the inspect or by pressing F12. And on the console, we can see list of NFTs. So let's refresh it, and here we see all the NFTs owned. The order is the one from the API, and it starts with 1, then 4, 2, 5, 3, and 6. Each wallet should have their own claimed NFTs displayed right here. So your number may differ from mine, and they should. All right. Next, that we have the IDs, we want, of course, to render them. So we'll need to know when to update the data, then we'll wait for the results based on the states that we'll create right here. And also we'll render it afterwards based on it. At the end, we all should see the exact example with all the 6 ducks in the left. So let's get to it. On the main menu, we'll have to update the imports to also use the use effect, use state, and use callback, so we can create the hooks that we'll need and keep track of what loaded and what will be loaded. So first, we'll also add 2 constants for the use states. One will be the list with the owned NFTs. So NFTs owned, and set NFTs owned. And it will be a use state with an empty array. And then a bool value that we'll say if the response has come from the API call or it's still waiting for it. So has responded NFTs and set has responded NFTs. The state will be false and it will be updated to true after it comes back. So to ensure that we wait for the results by the async function, we'll create another one on top of it. We'll remove the get NFTs owned code from here because we'll add it on the next function. So fetch NFTs owned, and it will be a callback. So if the value from the callback will change, the function will reload it. So first it's an async, and the callback value, it's the user address. We'll have the local NFTs owned, and we call the function with await. So await get NFTs owned from the user address. Then set the has responded to true. And let's correct the typo. So has responded, adding the S, that has responding to true. All right. And if there are NFTs, so if local NFTs owned, then we'll set the NFTs owned to the local NFTs owned. Else, we'll set it to an empty array. The highlight is because I'm using a syntax highlighter for TypeScript, but on the JavaScript file for the MainMenu, it has no problem. So it only showcases it underlying with red, but as the end result, it will work as expected. So now we should create the function which will be called when the render of the component is complete. And we'll do that by using use effect. We'll fetch the NFTs owned. And we'll set an interval so it refreshes and checks if any change has happened on that specific timeline. So we'll put it for 30 seconds. So if the user means new NFTs and the API will return something else because the block gets confirmed, then they will directly appear here without the need to actually refresh the page. And the callback argument would be the function fetch NFTs owned. All right, next we want to create the render state. So we'll have multiple cases based on the use states that we've created priorly. First case will be without the response done, that will still wait for it. Then will be with the response done and with an empty array list, which will display that we have no NFTs available. And the third one will be with NFTs available and displaying them. So let's add it directly into the app. Right after the H6 and before the button disconnect. We'll start with the first case where we don't have yet the response. So we'll say that it's loading the NFTs. Then with the response that has responded, and the NFTs owned are none, or the array length is 0, we'll say no NFTs available. And the last case where the response is done and the NFTs owned exist, NFTs owned done length, and we'll return a div. The parentheses are like this. So we'll have a div, and we should close it also. All right, and inside it we'll create the framework for the rendering. So first let's add text, pick your NFT, let's say. Then we want to map for each NFT that you own its image and pretty much the capacity to see them all. We'll also need for the structure a span and inside it to actually integrate the image. So let's start with the NFTs owned dot map, and to make it more readable, we'll call the variable NFT ID. For each NFT ID, we want to return the span. We should give it an ID and a key. We'll need them later on with the styling and the selection of the specific NFT to be able to play it and highlight it and everything. So let's call this one NFT and the NFT ID, and the key to be directly the NFT ID. Right, we'll close the span, and inside the span will be the image. Where we have the source. The source of the image should be directly from the piñata, so we have the decentralized stored images. As you can see on the JSONs themselves, so for example, if I pick JSON 10, we can see the image and the image in-game link. So to be able to see directly them, we'll replace the content identifier and the JSON file name with the content identifier and the image file name from here. And if we replace them, we can see directly the duck. So we'll copy it and instead of the specific, we'll copy it and first add the parentheses and then like this. All right. We'll replace the specific number with the dynamic ID. So NFT ID. Okay, on top of it, we'll also create the alt parameter. Let's say duck and NFT ID. And we'll need a width for the images, and 50 should be all right, especially after the styling of them. Okay, and in the same span, we'll also add the ID to be shown for the specific duck. So NFT with the NFT ID. Okay. And if we go back to the application, we can see them right now. So we have the ducks and the number specific for each duck. All right, this is a basic representation of them. Now we will move on to the styling. So for selecting one and styling it, we'll create some classes that will add the static values, and for the dynamic one, we'll create a function that will change the class to be only on the selected one, so it can highlight it. Okay. In order to do this, we'll use the CSS styling that I mentioned in the beginning. It is on the MainMenu folder, and it includes the global CSS and index CSS. With the index CSS, we'll replace the index CSS from the source of the React project. So we can copy it directly on the source, delete the previous one, and replace it as shown. And the globals will be in a custom folder called styles. And let's copy them right here. Okay. In order to use the globals, we'll add them to the app.js. So we'll import the file, and it's from the styles folder, the globals.css. Now we'll have to update the styles for the rendered NFTs. So we'll have to update the span and the image class names. We start with the span, so the class name should be character container. These are the classes created on the index and on the globals file specifically, so they can style both the span and the image. All right, and also add the style for the character img, so class name character img. All right. So this is the look that they have right now as static classes. It's a lot better than the previous one. Okay, in order to memorize the user selected NFT, we will need the state to keep track of it. We'll initialize it with an empty string and then keep the ID that is selected there. So we'll create another use state. We'll call it selected NFT, and the function set selected NFT, and the use state will be an empty string first. Then we want to change the styles based on the selected NFT. So for example, if the selected NFT is 4 and I click the NFT 2, then I want the class which was on the 4 highlighting it to be moved to the second NFT, so it highlights it. So we'll create a function. We'll call it change selection, and we'll have the old and the new NFT. So NFT and local selected NFT. And what we want is to remove, as I said before, from the one previously selected. So document get element by ID, and the ID will be NFT. So NFT, and then the ID specific for the NFT, which is local selected NFT. And if the class exists, that's why the question mark is placed, we'll take from the classes list and remove the class called card selected. Every single class can be directly searched here, so you can see, for example, this one is on the globals and it will be highlighted in the following way. And coming back to the selection, we also want to add that class to the new selected NFT. So to NFT. All right. On top of it, we'll need a function which handles the selection, which is a CSS modification, and also setting the selected NFT, which is calling this specific one. So we'll create the handle click NFT, having the ID, and we'll call firstly the change selection with the ID that we want to be changed to, and the selected NFT, which we know it was previously picked. Then we'll call an alert to see that the selected one has been picked. So for the ID, and then select the new one. So for ID. And the last step for it is to be added to the image. So on click, you should call a function which will address the handle click NFT for the specific NFT ID. All right, so if we come back here, we select a specific doc and it says selected NFT 4. All right, selected NFT 3. And it highlights it as shown in the CSS. The next step will be to map the scenes. So we'll define two different scenes. Now we have only the MainMenu. We'll also define the play game. Then we'll be able to change from the MainMenu to the play game and also keep track of the current one. So once again, to be able to do this, we'll need React hook states. We'll start by creating one in the MainMenu. And it will be related to the page that we are right now. So the pages will be the MainMenu and the play game. So let's set menu page and the default page MainMenu. All right, to change the current scene, we'll create another function. We'll remove the alert because we've seen that it works. So we'll create another function called handle play game, which role will have to move to the next scene, to the play game page. So we'll also save locally the picked NFT. So for the moment in the React app, you have the selected NFT highlighted. We'll also store it locally. So when we change from the MainMenu page to the play game page, it can pick it and do all the tasks to render the specific image in game. All right, so first let's write it here, the selected NFT with its ID. Then to store it locally, and set item of selected NFT, and we'll store the ID, and setting the menu page to game. We also need to insert a button so we can go to the MainMenu, and we'll do it by creating a similar button to the disconnect one. It's similar only on the class name, so the way it appears, but it will be called, and we'll write to play the game with the NFT selected. So we'll pick it here, selected NFT, and on click it will handle the play game. For the selected NFT, and also we want it to be playable only after a specific or any NFT is selected. So by default, disable it. If selected NFT, it's empty. Right, and we have the button. If we select a specific NFT, it updates the number on it. We'll also add 2 rows, so it's easier to see them. All right. Now we want to move on to the play game component and create it. So playgame.js, and it will be like the MainMenu in the beginning. We'll create it by calling it play game. We'll need the props, which will be the arguments passed to it, so we can keep track of the set scene. And for the moment, we'll return a basic div containing the game state. Also, let's import React. Okay, so to be able to map from the MainMenu page to the play game page, we'll need to create a dictionary, and we can create it right here. Called menu page mapping. And first is the MainMenu, which is all the content, again, the parentheses, which is all the content returned till now. So starting with the divs, we parse it this way, and then we have the game, which is a play game component. It actually imports it automatically. So we have play game with the menu page, which is the current menu page, and the set menu page, parsing the set menu page function. Okay, and the return will return directly from the dictionary. So the menu page mapping, the current page. All right. So let's pick, for example, doc6, and we get here its game state. So now we arrive to the play game page. In order to go back at the moment, we need to refresh the page. In the next step, we'll also add the functionality to get back and to create the game itself in the web app. So for this step, we'll need to install some dependencies to insert the game mechanics from the game.js, then to update it to be able to run in the React app, and then render the selected NFT as the character and be able to come back from the game scene to the MainMenu scene. So let's start with installing the dependency. It is called react-helmet-async, and the command would be the following: npm install react-helmet-async. Be sure to call it in the React folder. And this would give the possibility to actually call the game.js file directly into our app. We'll also need to move some files from the game folder into the React folder so we can use them. All right, it installed. So let's start copying the files. First, we need to copy the image folder to the source folder. Then we'll need to copy the game and the NFT basic in the public folder. Yeah, I'll copy the NFT basic. Okay. And then we need to update the index HTML into our play game so they can, and you can literally play the game inside it, inside the React app. So to do so, we'll import most of the body. So we'll take starting from the first div, till the last part of the div before the body ends. And in the play game, we'll directly delete this, add parentheses, and import it like this. Then we'll update the class to class name. Okay. We'll delete this style. And for the images to work correctly, we'll need to import them in the beginning and then modify the source here and here. So let's import the assets from images, assets.png, and import NFT loading from images.nft-basic.png. Okay, so let's update them right here. Is assets and NFT loading. Next, we want to import the game.js. So we'll call the helmet right in the code here. So helmet provider, and inside it call the helmet tag. So helmet. This way we can copy directly from the index.html the link to the style CSS and the script for the game.js, and only update the specific roots. So for the style sheet, it will be on the styles style CSS, and for the game it will be as it is right now. Also, we have to import the helmet provider, and for this we'll simply write it here. So import helmet provider and helmet from the library that we installed in the last dependency installation called react-helmet-async. Okay, now we need to modify the game script so it is specific for the React app. Again, all the red lines are related to the TypeScript highlighting, but the file it's a JavaScript file, so it will run smoothly anyway. So going to the end of the file, it was working perfectly fine as a basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript application, but for it to run on the imported helmet provider, we need to change from the event listener to actually call directly the onDocumentLoad. So we'll remove this line and call directly onDocumentLoad. Next, we want to be able to play with our own NFT. So we'll change the source file for the image in-game. Again, the image in-game can be checked by going to the piñata, then to the JSON, to any of the JSONs, and taking the content identifier for the folder of the images in-game. And as you can see, you have next the ID of the image and that PNG. So replacing the URL with this, and we get for the specific duck all the animations. This is also available for any of them, so feel free to check them all out. All right, next we'll import it. Again, be sure to use the right style so we can import and insert the variable dynamically here. And the variable will be as mentioned using the local storage. So here on the handle play game, we set it. And right now on the game.js, we'll get it. So get item for selected NFT .png. All right, and let's also add the parsing for the page menu states. So on the moment that we want to exit the play game scene, we can directly press ESC and it will come back to the MainMenu. Okay, so on the play game, we'll create the menu page and the set menu page from the props. Then we'll create a function called, let's call it ESC function, which will take the event. And if the event key is escape, then we'll log it as escape pressed. And set the menu page to MainMenu. Next, we'll also want to add an event listener based on the key down. So when the key ESC is pressed, to be done. All right, and we want to edit the message on the game.js file. For now, it was press space W or up key to play. We want after the game starts that you can see to press the ESC key to exit the game. So we'll update it right here, press ESC to exit. Okay, so let's check the game out. And all right, we are on the main web page. We should start it again. So npm start. And let's select a duck. Also, the game, all right, so you can see the duck. If you are using the dark theme on your computer or laptop, you will see the game itself on reverse colors. If you are using the light theme, you will see it exactly as it is right now. So for example, if you are using the pink duck, you will see it green. So it's more dynamically. So let's start with an orange one, for example. Okay, it loaded. And if we press space, it maximizes and we can play with the duck itself. And yes, this is how you integrate your own NFTs into a complete web app. And we've come back to the MainMenu. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. You can also check the complete app, the GitHub link specified, and using afterwards the checkout for the web app complete.